Right, good evening, everyone. It's lovely to have you here with us. And in fact, it's our first ever book launch for the 50 Plus Club. I see, Nikki, you're bringing out a new book soon, so we might have to do a book on that too, somewhere along the line. So,
nice, it would be lovely.
Yeah, great. So lovely to have you, Kim. And I'm going to read from the back of your book about what it says about you, just for those who don't know you, and then I'll go into a much more personal scenario about our journey, because I think that for me, as my own financial planner and a journey that we've walked for about 10 years, it's just fabulous to be able to have you here tonight. But Kim is a leading authority on holistic financial planning and has helped hundreds of clients to put money in the right place as a tool towards leading a life really that you really want, one that is filled with security and inspiration. And for me, Kim, you opened that door for me. I had one of the myths that you talk about in your book about, I don't have enough money and I'm going to have to work until the day I can't anymore. And I think that is one of the myths that you have in the first chapter of the book. And you helped me to be able to really lift my head out of that myth, look myself in the mirror, and really bring the change that I needed. And now 10 years later, really feel a lot more in control and get up and knowing and understanding what that looks like for me in my life. So maybe you want to just share a little bit with us about the journey. I know this is your second book that you've written, Retirement. The meaning of retirement was the first one, I think about 3 years ago. And this one I know was a goal you had for your 50th birthday. And there you are, Carol, well done. Now this one that you have behind you, Midlife Money Makeover, is the second book. So tell us a little bit about why you decided to write this book.
Thanks, Linda. And yeah, I mean, when you talk about years, first you say to me, it's been 10 years, our journey of working with your financial plan. And I go, my gosh, is it 10 years? But yes, it's 10 years. And then you say the book, I think it was about 3 years ago. It was actually 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So the whole concept of time and where it goes and how it goes is quite interesting. But yeah, thanks again for having me. I always enjoy chatting to you, and thanks to everybody for coming and hearing about the book, which is my real baby. Because when you do a book like this, you work on it for many years. As I finished retirement, I'd actually collected a whole lot more stories, and I really realized that there had to be another book, because I love to share people's stories in the books. And yes, Linda, it's people like you that have been the inspiration for a book like this, Midlife Money Makeover. And it's been many years in the process, but where it came from, as I said, I had stories after retirement that I still wanted to share, but I work with people near, at, and in retirement. And while I'm working with them and we're planning what their next chapter looks like and we're planning where they're going with their lives, they've been giving me so many more lessons. And Kim, you must share this with younger people, and you must let people know about this. So there's just such incredible lessons that they've been sharing that I really wanted to bring into this other book. But it goes a little bit deeper than that even. And the one big aspect was, I see so many people whose retirements are being sabotaged because of their relationship with money. And I'm not talking just about people who don't have a lot of money. I'm talking about people who have a lot of money and people who don't have any money. And they're kind of not friends with money. So they've put it in this wrong place. They don't want to focus on it. They don't want to give it attention, or they want to give it too much attention. So really, I wanted to delve into people's relationship with money, and I needed to go study about it, which I did. And I went to the States and I studied with somebody called David Kruger about how do we change our money story. The other element that for me was really important was, to do this work, you needed more self-awareness. And I wanted to bring in more into this book than I had into retirement. How do you get to know yourself, what your values are, and what you want to, with the direction you want to take in life? And then the final reason, and probably the big push for me, was this was my goal from when I was 50. I've come into midlife and it's a big transition, and I wanted people to stop saying it's a midlife crisis. I wanted people to see it as positive. I wanted people to see it as how they could form this next chapter to be their best chapter of their lives. And those are the big reasons why there was another book that needed to come out.
Right. So tell us a little bit about how you get going when you're writing a book. What's the process that you follow? And you also spoke about it being a goal. So tell us a little bit maybe about goal setting for you in your journey, and then the process of how to write a book for the wannabe book writers here on the call.
Okay, I'm probably going to disappoint the wannabe good book writers, but I'll share with pleasure. I mean, Linda, maybe you can just show the slide of my vision board. I'm a great vision board person. Everything about my life, virtually since I was 18, has been I do vision boards, and when I know what it is I'm trying to achieve with my life, I know where to focus my energy. And I think it comes to all of you in this midlife chapter, just to think about it as well. If you don't have an idea of what you're trying to achieve, how do you know where you're going? If we don't have this vision, we end up just living lives that everybody else wants for us and not the lives that we really want for ourselves. So you might not be as visual as me and have to have it as an actual vision board. I mean, I have my vision board in my study that I see every single morning. And I actually have another one at my bath because I love bathing. And at night while I'm bathing, I love to just reflect and see how much of my vision is actually happening. So yes, I do it from vision boards. Other people do it in other ways. But I think the important thing is just having that, how could I say it, that giving yourself that time and focused energy of putting intention to what you're trying to achieve. And then with that, you then know where your money should be going. You know, if you do earn money, why are you busy investing? It's not what people say, oh, save for retirement, save for retirement. I mean, save for, this then puts you in a place where actually everything you're doing, you understand why are you making those habit changes, why are you making those money changes. So the vision board for me has been really important. I mean, I laugh with my children. I have 3 children. And for the last 4 years in my Christmas card, I get, Mom, I really hope this year your book comes true. Because I've had it on my vision board for years. It's not like you just put it on and the next week you've got it. It's a lot of hard work and energy that goes into it. So I love it when, you know, and now they can at least write, I'm so pleased, Mommy, that your dream came true. But they all know about what's on my vision board. And then, Linda, your second question was around the process of writing. I think Linda knows me well enough to know that I'm not an amazing writer at all, yet I do have 2 books and a whole lot of ebooks, but I have an incredible team. I have an incredible team of people that supports me so that I can do all of this. You know, when I decided, probably 8 years ago, I was going to write a book, people would have said, oh, are you crazy? How are you going to write a book? I mean, you know, really. So I went out there and I found people to support me in order to do it. Because for me, being an author is not that I want to tell you all I'm an author. I had a message to share, and that's what's driven writing a book. So I want to share the message, and I found people to support me. So this picture of stages of writing a book, I asked Linda to share it because, yeah, maybe I just wanted to inspire some of you that might feel that you can't do it, because we are our worst critics. I handwrite everything. If I get on a computer and you ask me to type it all in a computer, I lose all my creativity. So every page gets handwritten. I've then got this beautiful soul in my life called Lorna. She then fixes my writing because she doesn't approve of a lot of the ways I write. Because when I write, I just write from my heart. And she does the fixing, and that's how I get it back. And then I sit and I make changes to it until we get finished manuscripts of a book that we can then send to publishers. And I've just also, I mean, maybe right place, right time, but both times that I've finished my manuscripts, I've sent it to the first publisher, and the first publisher said, we love what you've got, we'll take it. So I haven't had that story that I've heard of a lot of people that they've written and then they've had to send it to 10 different publishers, maybe because I'm writing in this area of money that not a lot of people write in, but the publishers love to take books around money. So, and my latest experience has been with Media 24, this new book, and they have been incredible publishers and an incredible team to work with.
Great, thanks, Kim. Yeah, I think it takes a lot of energy and effort, and as you say, a team around you. So that's fantastic. So there was a second part of a trigger for you in this book, and I remember very clearly that day I sat with you in your office. I think I came in for another reason, but while we were sitting waiting for my own financial planner to arrive, I was telling you about a book that I had just finished reading called Wisdom at Work by Chip Conley, and how fantastic this book was. And it's called Wisdom at Work: The Making of a Modern Elder. And Chip had just opened up a Modern Elder Academy for learning in Mexico. And knowing Kim, Kim loves to learn. So I think you're one of the extreme kind of lifelong learners that I know. A week later, Kim had organized and booked to go off to Mexico to learn with Chip Conley. So tell us a little bit about that story.
Linda, I can remember that like it was yesterday. I mean, there's poor Linda sitting and telling to me about this person who I didn't know who they were, but I love to learn. And I rate Linda's opinion. Linda said to me, Kim, Chip is it. He knows about midlife. And I'm thinking, well, I want to write a book on midlife. I need to learn as much as I can about midlife. You know, not even contemplating just how far Mexico is. I mean, I'm off and I'm going to Mexico to attend his course. So yeah, Linda, thanks to you. I now do subscribe. Anybody who wants to, he has a blog called Wisdom Well. He just shares such insightful information. But what Chip is he worked for Airbnb, and when he was one of the founders that came in as an older person, and he helped a lot of younger people. He had the experience of running boutique hotels, and the people that he was working with had the experience of the tech. And together they put together Airbnb, and he came in with his wisdom, and they came in with being much younger and understanding tech. And together he talks around how he's coined this concept called mentoring, being a mentor and an intern at the same time. And I just think it is the most incredible concept, because if we can think like that, younger people will embrace working with people that are getting older, because older people have this wisdom and EQ, and younger people maybe have new ways of doing it. And if we can learn to work together. So going to Mexico was a week on a most magnificent beach where in the mornings you got to meditate, you got to do circles and plan what it is your next chapter of your life was going to look like. So in my book, Midlife Money Makeover, I actually share a lot of the exercises. I've got 35 exercises in the book, and they're called midlife reflections that you can do. Some of them are from Chip, and a lot of the insights that I learned from Chip are in the book. Because one thing about me is if I'm learning, I know Linda says I'm a learner, which I am, it's one of my highest strengths, but I'm a sharer. I never learn to keep it to myself. I learn, and then I just want to share it. So a lot of the exercises are courtesy of Chip. I was fortunate enough that he even wrote forward in my book. So thank you, Linda. And yes, I asked him to put together a short video for the book launch, and Linda's actually got it. We're going to play it. It's like 3 minutes long, and you'll see why Linda and I both love Chip.
Hello, everybody. I'm coming to you from Mexico, which is where I met Kim Potgieter.
I think, Linda, can you put the volume up a bit?
Live from South Africa,
and it's on its
California Sur,
highest
Mexico,
volume.
to experience the Modern Elder Academy is a friend for life. And I love Kim. I love her wisdom, especially around the finances in our life. But not just the finances, but how does money give you freedom, or how does it take it away? These are the kinds of questions Kim and I got to speak about here at the Modern Elder Academy, also known as MEA, the world's first midlife wisdom school. I just want to tell you, I love Kim's new book, the idea of the midlife money makeover. I like it partly because my specialty is focusing on midlife. How do we make midlife and beyond the best years of our lives? So the society, the paradigm sort of suggests that once you hit about 45, it's all downhill from there. That may be true of your body, to some degree, although it doesn't have to be. It's certainly not true of your heart, your soul, and maybe even your emotional intelligence. So what I love about Kim's book is, and I really do believe it's well suited not for way beyond South Africa to the broader worldwide market, because she really speaks to, how do you invest in yourself? How do you invest in time and in what it is that brings you passion and purpose in your life? And yes, how do you invest your money as well? Most financial investors investors and advisors get very fixated on the money piece. In fact, one of the questions we like to ask here at MEA is the following. If you and money went to therapy together because you have a lifelong relationship, and you do, what would money say about you, and what would you say about money? That's provocative. Kim loves that, and I think that's the kind of thinking that went into this beautiful book she's written. The reality is we all have a relationship with money, and the script we have often was inherited. We got it from our parents, but it's pretty unconscious what that script is. And what I love about Kim's work is that she really helps us to see that our relationship with money is lifelong. It actually can bring freedom as opposed to take it away. And money is just a currency. It's something that actually helps us to get to something else. Money in itself is somewhat worthless. It's just paper or coins. So what I am here to do is to endorse heartily Kim's new book, The Midlife Money Makeover. I hope you'll go out and get it as soon as possible. I think it'll probably be one of the more valuable books in your life, because actually it's something that will be valuable at any age in your life. It doesn't just have to be midlife. It could be younger life. It could be later life. I hope you'll come visit us here in Mexico at the Modern Elder Academy, and I wish you all the best in South Africa and wherever you are watching this. Thank you.
Great. It's wonderful that you managed to influence him, and hopefully this book will be on his bookshelf that he shares with people from around the world as well that come to Mexico.
It is already there, Linda.
Okay.
But I mean, importantly with this, I remember when you first told me about it, and you talked around like a modern elder. When I first heard the word, I must say it didn't like excite me, and I went an elder. And then, with time and reflection and just realizing just how much wisdom we do have and how much wisdom we do have to bring to the world, it's a great way of changing our attitude of our place and where we are and what contribution that we're still going to be giving to the world. So it's really grown on me and something now that I refer to often, and I'm proud to be a modern elder.
Do you want to talk a little bit about our money story and where that starts in our life? Because I know that's woven into the book and is a big part of what you believe and engage with your clients.
Thanks, Linda. I mean, yeah, it's not the normal financial planning of this is the investment you should be in and this is how long you need to be in it. I mean, that is what all financial planners are doing. So very much in the book, what I wanted to focus on was how we have a relationship with money. Our relationship with money, most people don't realize they have, yet it's one of your longest relationships that you're ever going to have. We start hearing about money from our parents when we're little children, and actually we're still planning around money when we are writing our wills and planning for us leaving the world. So it's this long relationship, and people don't, first of all, even recognize that they have a relationship. So that's the number one places that I wrote about is just knowing that you do have a relationship. And then it's going back and saying, it's like, where does my relationship come from? And our relationship with money comes from our childhoods. Believe it or not, the research and the work that I've done, our relationship with money is normally formed by the age of 7. I mean, you think when you're 7, what did you know? But you'd already started creating your beliefs. You'd really started seeing your parents doing things. You'd seen other people doing things. You were hearing all these different messages. And then what happens is that goes into our subconscious. We don't think about it. How it manifests is in our thoughts. So we hear certain things. I'll give you an example. I was being interviewed for a radio interview the other day, and the lady who was interviewing me said to me, Kim, I just want you to know I'm 59 and I don't have 1 cent for retirement. I went, oh. She says, I don't have 1 cent. And she says, you know why I don't have 1 cent? She says, I've read your book. And she had put so many markers on all the different pages of the questions. It was a great interview. She says, I don't have money because when I was younger, my mother said to me, you can choose between being a creative person or you can have money. Choose creativity or choose money. And she says, I thought about it long and hard, and I chose being creative. I didn't choose the money. So at no time did she realize that belief had actually changed every one of her decisions. Now, so when this happens, and what I want to share with people is, yes, you have a story, but now you've got to work out for yourself, is that story serving you, or is that story that you've got in your head not serving your relationship with money? So the process that I take you through is first to identify what it is that your story is. Where did those beliefs come from? What were those things that you potentially heard your parents say or watched other people doing that you created would then be a reality? And most of our reality, we need to really pull apart and see how much fact's in it. Because there's not often a lot of fact in our beliefs. We get these beliefs, we stick them in. So it's actually writing out what is your money story. It's then looking at how that money story has worked or hasn't worked for you. And then it's pulling apart some of those beliefs and seeing just what you'd like to change them to. Because just like they were formed, if you want to, you can put a process in place where you actually change those beliefs. And that's so important, because going into this next chapter of our lives, why do we have to do it the same way we've always done it? Well, why do we need to carry that same baggage? And I think it's great if there's things that's worked for you and then you carry on doing those. And then when there are areas that haven't worked for you, you look for a better way of doing it. And that's really this whole money story. And it's really the story we tell ourselves in our heads. And it's the story that we tell ourselves year after year after year. It just kind of, we put it on repeat, but we never stop and just look at it and reflect on it and just see whether we need to have it anymore.
I think for me, that was very valuable in reading the book, was the fact that as you talked about the midlife reflections, you bring in the stories of clients related to that specific either money story or reflection. And that I found really valuable as you read the book, because it's an easy book to read, but it also comes with lots of examples and ideas that we can all relate to.
Linda, I'm so pleased you got that, because my big intention with this book, for years we've heard on how to invest and how to do money, but I think most people switch off. So they hear it and then there's something in them that just switches off, so they don't necessarily finish listening to it. So my intention with the book, first of all, was to make it that you weren't feeling like somebody was lecturing to you. That it was more of an empowering one, that you felt that you were real. You were talking to somebody who was real. And what better way for me to do it than to share client stories? So I have incredible clients that I say to them, please, I send them questions. Here's a question. Then I get all these emails of answers. Then I put it into the book. Then I say, can I share your story? Do you mind if I share your story? Please share my story. Do you want your name changed? Some would want their names changed. But most were just so excited that they were going to be able to potentially help other people so that other people didn't make the same mistakes they did, or where they'd done it really well, other people could also do that. So I think that's maybe what brings that book, that little, I would say, that edge of soul. And so I'm pleased that you picked it up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was fabulous. The other part that I really loved was around the Lifeline journey. So I'm going to bring up the slide, and then maybe you can just share a little bit around your thinking around this.
Yeah, as I said, I've got a lot of client stories in the book, but I've also got a lot of exercises, because at the end of the day, when you read these kind of books, the worst thing really is that you read and read and read and then you don't implement. How many of us read books and then we never implement? So for me, it was vitally important in this book that I found a way that people would reflect on it and then they would be able to implement it. So as I said, there are way over 30 midlife reflections that actually get you to think about it. And the one that Linda's asking me to share with is really this Lifeline exercise. And I'm sure many of you have done a Lifeline before, but I actually did my Lifeline for the book. And I realized that I've had some really rough times in my life, some big challenges from losing my dad in a hijacking, from losing a child, from my husband being diagnosed last year with cancer. And all of these challenges, when you're in them, you're not really sure how you're going to come out of them. You're not really sure what you're learning from them. And yeah, it feels a bit overwhelming at the time. But if you reflect back and you see how every time you've gone through one of these challenges, you've come out with better insights, you've come out with, again, I'm going to use the word wisdom, but all these experiences have shaped who you are. All these experiences have actually shaped what it is that's important to you and where you want to go with your life. So as much as I like to live in today, I think this timeline exercise is a great exercise to do to just really determine who you are. And in that way, not only are you determining who you are, you're also managing to work out like where some of those absolute values that you hold important to you, where they have actually served you so well and got you through the challenges so that you come out of it. So a great exercise that I recommend anybody to do is this Lifeline exercise. And again, what you're doing is you remembering, first of all, that you're your greatest asset. Out of all of this, I mean, we can talk money until we, whatever, but we are the greatest asset that is in this discussion. And getting to know ourselves and understanding ourselves and what we've been through and where we want to go. Becomes so important. So, Linda, I mean, somebody did ask me the other day in one of the interviews, or what's your favorite exercise out of the book? And if I had to tell you for myself, it is this one. That was a hugely important one. And the second one, which I'm not going to share with you tonight, because you've got to get the book, but there is another one I'll share with you. But the one that I think is my second is this whole concept of determining what are our top values. No, sorry, Linda, I didn't give you a slide on this one.
Simon asked me to put it up again. He just wanted to.
Oh, okay, sure. No, I'm
Carry on
the messages.
Carry on.
So you can see some of the hardships I've been through. But for me, the values, at the end of the day, if I am clear on what my top values are and I know in which direction. So the work, I studied with Brené Brown in the States, and I did her course, Dare to Lead. And the learnings that I got out of that were very much around this whole concept of authentically showing up in the world, coming to the world as Kim Potgieter, not coming to the world as somebody else that I thought everybody wanted. And to get clear on who I am and to get clear on what I add to the world was to do this values exercise. And it's something that I often ask people in meetings, tell me about your top values. And often I get like blank stares or, like, where do you start? So in the book as well, I lead you through how to come up with your top values, whether they're 2 or whether they're 5. But I know my 1 is inspiration. So anything I do, I want to be inspiring people. And my second one is I want to be authentic. And I know if I can stay straight with those 2 values, and I'm living them, I'm on the right path. And I can feel when I'm not doing that, and I can feel how I'm then not in my flow. And then I go back and I re-look at stuff and say, well, like, Kim, why aren't you in your flow? What could you be doing differently? So that would be another something that I would really encourage anybody coming into midlife or retirement to be clear for themselves. Like, what are my 2 top values, or what are my top values, and what is my contribution going to be to the world? Making sure that I'm living those values.
Thanks, Kim. I think often I know when I'm speaking to audiences about my own personal story, and there are a number of those dips in my story as well. And yeah, we do build character and wisdom and strength, I think, in those valley moments, but even though we don't choose to go through them. But I think for me, the most important thing is that life isn't a straight line. We don't save 15 to 20% of our gross pay for 35 years and land up with this perfect amount of money to retire on. Life happens along the way. For each of us, that's different. And I think when we are more authentic in our stories, we help the audience to also feel not guilty or less guilty, but to deal with the things that really matter. And rather than staying in the valleys, or as you're saying, some of the myths are, I can't and won't save enough, or whatever their reasoning is, this helps them enormously to pull themselves together, look themselves in the mirror and keep going and to find solutions. And there are solutions way beyond 60. For those with 50 plus know, is because we can continue to work in these seasons now, which makes a big difference to how we need to look at money in this season of life.
No, maybe I could just add one thing to that. I agree totally with what you've shared. But in our heads or in our talk or in our speak, if we continually say, I'm not good with money, I'm never going to have money, we're going to look around and guess what? We're going to be right. And we love to prove ourselves right. We are not going to have money and we're not good with money. And I'm saying, and my challenge in the book is, stop saying that. Find a way rather to say, I'm good with money, and money is going to be my friend, and I'm going to find a way to work with it, because it's just as much effort saying that you're bad at it as it is saying that you're good at it. But my gosh, at the end of the day, all money is an enabler, and finding a way to put it in its proper place so that it can enable your life instead of sabotage your life, for me, just kind of makes sense.
Right, so I'm going to open the floor a little bit, Kim, if you don't mind, and get the audience to ask some questions. So just raise your hands or use the hand at the bottom, completely up to you. And anything you want to ask Kim about the book or anything else, feel free. Don't all be silent now. Fiona, you're going to ask a question. No. Nikki.
No, I just thought I'd show you my pretty face because I've been listening. And
it's wonderful to see your pretty face.
Let me ask a question. I'm Kim. Nice to meet you. So I'm a retired investment banker. I should be really good with money, but actually I'm the opposite. I don't know. I suppose because I could make it for a very long time, I didn't really think about it. So, what are your comments about that sort of a situation? It's almost like a non-event in my life, and yet suddenly it is an event.
So I would say, interesting that was the career you chose to go into. And often, what we hear about the cobbler who doesn't fix their own shoes, or the hairdresser that doesn't do their own hair. So just because you're in finance doesn't mean that you've necessarily taken care of your finance. And for many people, they do, and it's a great one to have that, money will just come, money will come, and then they don't put the focus and the energy of looking at it. That might be the case, but I have found in my experience that you can say these things, but you still have to put the right habits in place to support them. So we can have vision boards, but if you don't do the action, the vision board doesn't come through. If we say we're going to have lots of money, but we don't put the habits in place of actually putting away money, it's not going to come from anywhere. So Fiona, the best thing really would be then, it's to say, well, do you want to change it now? Or do you want to just carry on exactly the same way? And it's when you decide that you want to make the change that there are steps to make the change. I'll often get somebody who comes in to see me and they haven't got anything, and they kind of like look at me and they say, well, what do you think I should do? And all I can comment back to them is all the same. Get a plan. That's my number one always. Have a plan. Because if you don't go and get a plan and you dig your head in the sand, it ain't going away. The second one is, you're your greatest asset. Go get the skill and go out there and start earning the money. And I don't care what age you are, you start putting some away for the day when you can't work. Who's going to look after us when we can't look after ourselves? So yeah, it's first of all just making that decision that we want to do it differently. And if we don't want to do it differently, let me tell you, you can go and see as many people as you want, that they can't do it for you. It's actually all up to you to do it.
Without a doubt, that was the most empowering moment for me when I had to face myself in the mirror. And even though the plan wasn't fun to look at, the plan is structured and now makes me feel so much better. Nikki, did you have a question? Thanks,
Yes.
Fiona. Yeah.
So Kim, like most of us of our age, around 50-ish, we're the sandwich generation. So we've still got children who need to be financed to a degree, and we have parents who are running out of money because their financial planning was geared for 75 years, and now they're in their 80s and probably going to live for another 5 or 10 years. So I'm in that space where I'm actually having to be quite firm with my parents who have still got money and they still have their mental capacities and they're still healthy and fit, and saying, guys, you've got to make that money last for as long as possible before your daughters kick in and take over. Your responsibility is to act responsibly with what you've got left, because right now we can't pick you up yet. You know, it's too early. Our finances aren't geared for that. In fact, I'm the only daughter of 3 who could possibly help, and that's only because my husband died. And you know, there was a payout, and it's not that I've been left a rich widow, but I keep saying to them, the best thing I can do for you and me is to look after my wealth plan, so that in 8 years' time, when your money runs out, I can step in and look after you. But you've got to get, your money's got to last for another 8 years. So yeah, just a comment, really, more than a question, but I'm sure you come across this often. And yeah.
First of all, what I'd want to add is congratulations on having the courage to have that conversation. Because for so many children, they don't have that conversation with their parents. They don't want to hurt their parents. They don't want to talk about the money, so they don't have that conversation. So that was brave to have that conversation. The biggest thing that I get told always by clients, and the first thing they tell me is, make sure that I'm never dependent on my children. Make sure I'm never dependent on my children. Okay. But that said, and your parents wouldn't want to be dependent on you, but they're from this generation where you don't talk about it. They're from this generation where they're kind of digging their head in the sand and not dealing with what's in front of them because they don't want to be dependent on you. And the fact that you've alerted them, I mean, I would take them with me to your take them with you to your wealth manager that you've got, and let them put in a plan for them, because it is so important that they get to see when it's going to kick in that they're going to need to give you. And then they're making informed decisions. They're making decisions about whether they want to spend this, whether they want to do this, because I see it so often, and I'm going to talk from a parent's point of view and I'm going to talk from the children's point of view. When people don't understand the consequences of what they're actually doing to their children or their parents. So for your parents, they don't understand the consequences of the pressure they're going to put your sisters and yourself under. So I would take them to the meeting, I would show them, and then you can work together as a team on it. As you say, you're going to be the only one that's going to be able to help. We have to have stronger boundaries, because as Nikki's explaining, she's the support of younger and older and one in a whole family. If she doesn't look after herself, if she doesn't manage to put away, there's nothing for anybody. So it seems like it's cruel, but putting those boundaries in place are going to be so important. Again, I see a lot of parents who are paying for their children from account. I'll pay their insurance, I pay their medical aid, I'm paying all these kind of things. And I can see them running out. And I say, no, we're calling the children in. The children have got to understand, and I'm talking about adult children, the consequences of you now paying all this money, that there's now going to be nobody to look after you. So, Nikki, I mean, there's not a solution to it, but it's definitely advantageous to have conversations. And I don't think, not having these conversations helps anybody. So actually sitting them around the table and showing them the real facts. People from, talk the olden days, but people from the past always thought that if you talked about money, it wasn't classy. If you talked about money, it just was like a little bit taboo. It was the same as your will that was written and hidden away, and it only got read when you passed away, and then all your family killed each other because you'd written things in there that they didn't want. I'm an advocate of having these conversations with people when you can still empower them to make the changes, as opposed to it all being this big secret. So yeah, carry on having those conversations with your parents. And then as also a mother of 3, it's learning to not give our children everything. And I talk from experience.
Yeah.
I've wanted to right so much of the wrongs by giving them stuff, and actually I'm not serving them at all.
I totally agree with you. It's, you know, when we say the sandwich generation, it's so easy to feel that you're beholden. And I've got a situation at the moment where my eldest son was on his own medical aid when my husband was killed, because at 21, it was too expensive to keep him on ours. My youngest son was still on the same medical aid as us because he was only in matric. And by virtue of group risk cover, we got 10 years of free medical aid. So my youngest son and I have 10 years of free medical aid. And the mother in me feels guilty that my eldest son doesn't have free medical aid. So the mother in me wants to pay for his medical aid to even the playing fields, but is that the right thing to do? So he's got medical aid and gap cover. And when you mount that up, it's like $4,000 a month. And when you're battling to find a job, that's quite tough. So I am paying it at the moment, but I need to get that off my books as quickly as possible.
And you know your own answer, Nikki. I don't need to tell you.
It's such a tough
lesson. And you know, this is the great thing about I mean, having conversations like this, and it's also something that I really encourage in the book, is having an accountability partner. It's having, and it doesn't necessarily have to be your best friend or your spouse, even your financial planner, but it's that somebody that you know when you go to them, they are going to tell you as it is, and they are going to kind of hold you accountable, because for all of us, we can fall into the bad habits and we can go back to what we were doing. But having that person in our life, I mean, it's accountability partner, a square squad person who we go and we check in with and assures us that we're not being cruel to our son because we're not paying his medical aid, that he's more than capable. And, you know, just having those kind of truthful conversations is extremely helpful. So Nikki, no, I'm not going to give you advice on that one. That would be totally unfair.
So Kim, there's another question from Jenny in the chat box about how do we encourage employees to take responsibility for their financial wellness? Well, I'm going to say, give them the book.
Please give them the book. You know, I need to get book sales. No, I mean, Jenny, I think that the big thing about is trying to do a different conversation. You know, this conversation of you need to save for retirement. You need to save for retirement. And in their heads, they're going, I'm never retiring. Who cares about retirement? I've got a car that I want to buy. Or who cares about retirement? I want to get a new home. Until we as an industry, until we as people learn to rather talk to people about themselves and what they're trying to achieve in their life, and let them click that there's the link between money and life, we're not going to get people to really change. You know, the more talks and the more horror stories. I started going to retirement talks. I know it sounds quite weird, but in my 20s, I remember going to those Retire Right workshops. I always had a fascination, and it was always doom and gloom, and you were never going to have enough. And I'm so pleased things have come a long way since then. But even in our industry, the financial industry, we love to show people graphs, and we love to make people think that we have got, you know, so intelligent because of how we invest. But the core for me, Jenny, would be for them to understand that they first of all have a relationship, that they have the power within themselves to make it different, and it's their choice at the end of the day. So I do believe we've got to do it differently. We can't do it the way we've done it always, because we're just beating the same drum, and that beating the same drum is getting us nowhere.
Great, thanks, Kim. Any other questions?
Yes, I've got another one.
Okay.
Thanks,
So,
Nikki.
Kim, I know this is not midlife money, but it relates to, I think, to all of us since COVID, particularly to the younger generation, but all of us since COVID have had a wake-up call that we do need multiple streams of income. One stream of income is not a guarantee of income, because the way the world is changing, you can have that cut off tomorrow. So you need to have your money coming in through different streams. But our children, I've always said in you know, all the future-proof your child work that I do, particularly in the last couple of years, are going to have guaranteed periods of unemployment or periods where they have voluntary retirement to upskill. And I think that we're all young enough, many of us on this webinar, to know that we're going to work for a very long time too. And we may also need to take voluntary periods of retirement to upskill ourselves and to pivot our businesses. I don't think there are financial products that cover that at this point. So it's becoming increasingly important that we change the family money story right down to our kids, because they need to be investing from the earliest of times so that compound interest actually works for them, because they're going to have to pay for those periods of unemployment or voluntary retirement or upskilling, because unless you're employed by a company, those upskilling courses won't be covered, and more people will be entrepreneurs than ever before, so they're going to have to pay for that upskilling.
They're all brilliant points and brilliant things that you're sharing. I mean, again, in the book, the big thing that I encourage is a portfolio life where you have different streams of income. I do think you've got to look at different assets. You've got to look at where you get money coming in from a number of different places. And definitely COVID has brought that in, because when one dries up, you've got to find places that it's coming from. That said, I mean, it still goes back to the point of having investments that can actually be growing while you're not working. Because if we're always thinking about, I mean, another big money belief that people have is, if I work hard, then I'm going to get money. And sometimes it's just the absolute opposite. I've seen people that work so hard that don't have money. It's a different kind of thinking around how do we get like annuity stream incomes. So Nikki, when you're talking about taking a year off or a month off or whatever to upskill to, I mean, if you've got annuity stream incomes coming in, then you're fortunate to be able to do that. But if you've got no income coming in, you are going to stay on the hamster wheel, and you're going to keep going around that hamster wheel and around that hamster wheel. So yes, there's a whole lot of different thinking to it. And guess what? We've been brought up to think, well, we're going to get a job, we're going to get a salary, and we're going to be fine. The world has changed, and COVID has changed us all in its entirety. So it's time for us to throw out a whole lot of that old-fashioned way of doing things and come and think about how we can do it going forward in a different way. And you know, on the products things, insurance companies and a lot of the times they're working so far back. I mean, how many people I've seen that took out retirement funds, pension funds, endowments, all of these products, and we talk products, where the person earned commission, then you have a look at your rate of return that you've had in your investments and how much they didn't grow, and people then are bitter about it. They are the wrong products. We need to get more fussy or have some knowledge when we go and see people. You don't want to be sold to. You don't want to be sold another product that is outdated, old-fashioned. You want liquidity. You want to be able to get in and out of your investments without penalties when you want to get out of these investments. And I think it also falls a little bit on us to get some knowledge, because otherwise we go there. It's like going to the doctor, and the doctor says, well, you know what, this is wrong with you. And you go, okay, doctor, this and this is wrong with me. We need to get 2 or 3 opinions. It's exactly the same with financial planning. And if you're going and you want to get stuff for free, this is my big thing. You go and you say, okay, well, you know, I can get that down the road because he's going to do it for free. If he's doing it for free, he's charging you or she, a commission, and they're making a commission and selling you a product where you're not going to get the good return that you should be getting. So pay for advice. I mean, pay fair price for advice. But in that way, you can get out of this mindset of buying products that's not investing. There's so much more to it, and it's got way more to do with being diversified across all asset classes, even across all countries. No longer do we just look at investing in South Africa. We've got to look at investing from a worldwide perspective. And in that way, Nikki, I know this is a long answer to your whole thing, but in that way, not only are we thinking about work different, we're thinking about investing differently. And then, yes, we can take years off to upskill. We have freedom to choose. So we get off that hamster wheel, and all of a sudden we have freedom to choose when we wake up in the morning what we're going to be doing. And when something like COVID hits us, we've got some reserves. We're not sitting in so much debt. that we are drowned. I mean, the amount of people that I've seen that are drowned in debt right now. And it's because so many people believe that their overdraft and their credit card was their money. It ain't your money.
Right, thanks, Kim. Heather, you had a question?
Just one simple question first is, where is your book? It's obviously, is it exclusive books? Do you buy it online? How do I get hold of a copy?
So Heather, you can buy it at Exclusive Books. It's at all good bookstores.
Okay.
You can also get it online on the Kindle. It's available on Kindle. It's available at Take-A-Lot. It's available at lots of different places. But what I am offering just for tonight, for 24 hours, if you go to my website, kimpotgieter.com, I'm offering a 10% discount on the price of the book and the journal. And you just got to put in the word makeover, then they'll know you attended this talk. So I did the book. And to go with the book, which is really great, I put together a journal with all the exercises in, because as I shared with you earlier, you can read this book, but if you don't actually go out there and do the work and make the changes, you're just going to have knowledge in your head. You're not going to have actual action that's happened. So you'll see on the website, there's a book and there's a journal. You can either just buy the book, just buy the journal, or you can buy them as a package together, which I give it a really good price.
Okay.
So that's where you get the book. Obviously, if you buy it on the Kindle, it is quite a lot cheaper, but then you haven't got the opportunity of sticking Post-its on all the pages and doing the writings. I'm still of this age where I like to write and I like to really get myself into the process. So yes, but there is the Kindle version as well to go with it.
And exclusive books as well, huh?
Yes, and at Exclusive Books too.
A quick little one. I've got a more, related to finance, the actual content of the book, but just to get the quick little questions out of the way. You're with Chartered Wealth. Do you know Tanya Carrera?
Yes, I know her well.
Okay, I thought you might. Yeah. So I had we can call it a makeover, because I changed careers and I now work for the executor of NFP Private Wealth Management. So I studied my CFP thinking I could go out there and sell, but I didn't have that base and I couldn't take that break. And I didn't have any annuity. My last paycheck was my paycheck. So to start at the age of, I studied it in 2015. I carried on as an accountant for another 5 years, bored out of my mind. And I'm now loving it. So all the stuff that you're touching on, it's so interesting because I do help him wind up estates from, so with the CFP knowledge and with an accounting knowledge and tax knowledge. And I see the diversity, all the sandwich generation kids that have been trying to help their parents or have landed up with an estate that's stuck and now mom's dependent or dad's dependent until it gets wound up. I've seen trust fund babies who don't know how to handle their money when dad's not there. It's really interesting. So yeah, anyway, so I work in the same business as Tanya now. Tanya's in marketing. I'm in the estate side. And yeah, I just wondered, because you've obviously, you've done the psychology and the relationship with money. I'm certainly not a trust fund baby, but I meet a lot of trust fund babies. And I just want to know, how do you deal with those people that they're just reckless and irresponsible and almost overly dependent on other people, which you probably love as a client, making their decisions for them and helping them, and they're so overly dependent on somebody else doing anything that's got to do with money.
So Heather, maybe just to say there that I try and have no judgment, because everybody has their own other vices that they're dealing with. So when parents have less fun for their children, it's been their family and it's been the legacy and the generations, and I don't know what else they've had to deal with to get that. So I do try not to be judgmental of it, because we've each got a different outlook. It's every client that comes and everybody that you deal with. wants different things, does it differently. So no two people are the same. And unfortunately in our roles, it's more of a neutral role, but the way I deal with it is normally to tell some stories. And if I can tell some stories, I can get my message across more in stories of how other people have done it and what they could be doing with their lives. Because if they feel like you're judging them, they're just going to go and do more of it. And yeah, well done on doing your CFP. I also only did mine at the age of 37. I hadn't been in this industry at all. I actually really hated financial planners, and I restudied to become a financial planner so that I could do this work, because I do believe this work, I mean, every day I believe I earn a paycheck and not a paycheck, because I love what I do, and at the same time I'm making a difference in people's lives, and it's hugely rewarding. So well done on doing that.
Oh, to you too. No, I'm not judgmental either. I was just more interested in the psychology of some of those trust fund babies that are so sort of almost overly dependent and reckless with their money, and just how do you think, how are they wired? And I mean, we can understand that everything seemed to be too easy, and yes, we don't know what they've been through, and I don't judge anyone. Those are their circumstances. That's the life they led. They don't know any better. So
well, I have learned through my life that you can't change anybody else. So it's only really when they're ready to change that they're going to change. And I know I had an alcoholic my father was an alcoholic, and I mean, as a little girl, I remember trying to change him and get him to give it up. And one day he decided to give it up. And then before he passed away, he hadn't had a drink for 17 years. So these kids and all of that, it's when they decide there's going to be a change. And I think I shared it earlier, you know, if you want to change your relationship with money, it's only when you decide you want to do it. You know, as much as anybody can tell you to do it, it's not going to happen until you decide. Linda, I think there was a question from Simon, but
thanks. Last question from Simon, because we're on the hour.
Thanks, Heather.
I think this hopefully is a quick question. You say yes or no. I'm pretty sure that in my younger days, I was probably sold a few products, and so my question is, does your book help me to help basically to give to my children how to tell when you're being sold a product, or, and is it actually just someone who's actually wanting to commission, or is it actually worth it? Because that was after late. I mean, I've been lucky since then, but there was this time when I realized this guy literally just wanted the commission from this sale.
So my book doesn't spell it out that way, but what my book does spell out is the discussions you should be having with your financial planner. So if you went and you try to have these discussions with somebody that was going to be earning a commission, they would go, no, thank you. I just want you to sign on the dotted line. And then you run away. If your financial planner is not prepared to have these discussions with you, if they're not prepared to go into where your relationship with money comes from, why it is, what money represents to you, run a million miles away, because that's not the financial planner that you want in your life. So that's where the book helps. I've heard from quite a lot of younger people actually now that have read the book and said, well, we would never have to do a midlife money makeover if we put all of these kind of principles in place. These are the kind of things we should be putting in place from day one. Why didn't you write the book for younger people? But, very much, as I shared with you earlier, midlife was an area for me that I wanted to have impact in. And if you write it for everybody, then you don't have the same impact. But definitely I could say that your children would get value, and they would know what conversations and what to expect in these conversations with a financial planner.
Thanks. I was going to basically say at the end that in reading the book, I really believe that if you feel you're at a point where this book isn't for you, but you have adult children in their 30s or heading to 40, then definitely it's a great way for them to build their habits right now, so that, as Kim said, the habits will be there. They'll be asking different questions. In fact, many of the millennials and the Gen Xers are already asking those kinds of questions. They're a lot more astute around money because there's a lot more information around. But thank you, Kim. I think you said it right near the end. And it's one of my favorite things from the book is that when we get to the season of life, that we get to write a play check rather than a paycheck to ourselves. And it fits so perfectly with the work that we do at 50 Plus, because we always say, if you're going to work in the season of life, make sure it's work that you love, because then it feels like play rather than hard work. And then you can continue to do it into your 70s as long as your health continues, and beyond. And that helps you to grow your investments, and to continue adding value and living a blended life. So the book is fabulous. I finished it, and thank you for your wisdom, for taking the time to write the book with your team. It certainly is something that can be used by many, many people. And we really appreciate you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you for having me and for all showing up.